Josh Mafia, we are back with another reaction video.
Yes, Lord.
Indeed, we're back. But today we are reacting to how an NBA player became so overpowered they had to change basketball. If you don't know who it is, you don't know who he is today. But you should know because this is back in the day. You feel me? But if you're new to my channel, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, then make sure everybody is locked in my channel. Even your pet need to be locked in. Share my channel to everybody. It don't matter if your pet, your dog, your mom and dad, sister, brother, all the things of that. But we are going to get into this video and when we see how he changed basketball. I know he is, but shit, I don't know if you know, but listen, you're going to figure out. Let's get into it.
When people talk about the best athletes in the world, you often hear about Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, or maybe even LeBron James. But what if I told you that there was an NBA player so athletic that nobody thought he was human? A man who could touch the top of the backboard, averaged an unbelievable 48.5 minutes per game one season, while games are only 48 minutes long, making it seem like he could literally run forever. And even
this nigga's I wasn't gonna pause it, but this look at his stride. Roll that shit back. Look at his stride. It literally takes him at least 2 steps to get down that court.
Only
look at this shit.
Minutes long, making it seem like he could literally run
he already down the court.
And even block someone so hard that he dislocated their shoulder. Yes, I'm serious. Everyone was scared of him, as he even challenged Muhammad Ali to a boxing match. But who was this legend? Well, it was none other than Wilt Chamberlain. To find out how he managed to win 2 NBA titles, 4 MVPs, and the record of most points scored in a single season, we have to go back to 1955. Philadelphia State Athletic Championships. A 7'1" teenager named Wilt Chamberlain, nicknamed Dipper because he has to dip his head under doorways, has just won the state high jump and shot put title. Wilt is seemingly emerging as the next great track and field star of the United States. Or is he? Red Auerbach, the head coach of the Boston Celtics, a professional basketball team in the National Basketball Association, or NBA, had received word about a larger-than-life athlete. Auerbach, upon hearing about this incredible teenager, would begin to coach Wilt over the summer, trying to make Chamberlain into a basketball legend. But he wanted to test his potential, so he invited B.H. Bourne, the MVP of the 1953 collegiate tournament, to play Wilt in some one-on-one games, a decision that would change both of their lives forever, because after a few hours of competing, Bourne, who had been drafted into the NBA just a few months before, had decided to retire from the game. In January of 1955, in Chamberlain's final high school season, he continued to dominate the hardwood, setting a Philadelphia State high school scoring record of 74 points. However, just a week later, his record was erased. Stody Watts would drop an insane 78 points, frustrating the Big Dipper. Therefore, in his next game, Chamberlain would score 90 points, and it was that scoring explosion which began to draw an insane amount of national attention. Newspapers were reporting that approximately 140 colleges were recruiting his services, and a certain someone within the NBA was working tirelessly to bend the rules in order to select the high school phenom. Meanwhile, George Marcus, another high school legend, was making his semi-professional basketball debut at only 16 years old in 1953. That's amazing. Teenage Marcus was dominant against his opponents, who were all grown men, scoring as much as 44 points. However, George had a huge secret. Throughout the initial years of the NBA, the 8 NBA teams were able to make a special territorial pick in exchange for a first-round choice, which could only be used on local players. Originally, it was implemented for teams to select their local collegiate stars, but Eddie Gottlieb, the owner of the Philadelphia Warriors, lobbied to have this changed, and in the 1955 NBA draft, Eddie was able to select Wilt Chamberlain, stashing him away until he was ready to make his professional debut in 1959. But would he actually play his first pro game in 1959? May 1955, Chamberlain has finally made his decision. Not only will he be playing basketball at Kansas, but he will also be competing in triple jump and shot put. Knowing the competition would be tougher, the Big Dipper would play semi-professional basketball on the side as a high school junior and senior. However, this was in direct violation of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA, rules. But Wilt never broke any rules. George Marcus did. November 18th, 1955, Wilt, unable to play for the varsity team at Kansas until his sophomore season, has just led his junior varsity team to a rare win against the top squad, dropping 42 points and grabbing 29 rebounds.
Nice.
However, this is where some issues would arise for Chamberlain. You see, the NCAA had made some key rule changes and additions in 1955 and 1956. The keyhole had been widened, making it much more difficult for Wilt to catch the ball near the basket, as he was only allowed to remain in the key for 3 seconds at a time. Additionally, 3 brand new rules were added, mainly as a response to the Big Dipper's insane athletic ability. Firstly, you could no longer grab your teammate's shot attempts out of the air and dunk it in for your own points, something Wilt was infamous for in high school. Secondly, you could no longer throw the ball over the backboard on baseline out of bounds plays, another staple Overbrook High School used to lob the ball to Wilt. Finally, in response to the rumors that Chamberlain was dunking his free throws, no one was allowed to enter the keyhole area until the ball hit the rim. Yet, these changes paled in comparison to the events of December 4th, 1955. Jay Suter-Keg, a reporter for the Cumberland Evening Times, would share an article exposing George Marcus's true identity. And while the article initially gained zero interest, the beginning of Wilt's sophomore campaign saw the NCAA launch a full-blown investigation. Chamberlain's college eligibility was at risk. 1 year later, the Kansas Jayhawks are set to face Northwestern in their opening game. Wilt Chamberlain, who had thankfully been cleared of any wrongdoing, would drop an insane 52 points in his debut game for their varsity team. Dip was far too athletically dominant. His vertical was enough to allegedly touch the top of the backboard off a single step. He was strong enough to finish third in the Big 7 shot put championship, and his incredible stamina meant he never had to leave a game. Wilt's 29.6 point and 18.9 rebound averages would lead Kansas back to the NCAA finals. With the Jayhawks as the clear favorite, they were set to avenge their 1-point failure from 1953. But in a best-of-1 series, anything can happen. The score is 46-48. Kansas must score on this final overtime possession, or
they have no people on.
Again, despite facing a zone defense all night, Wilt would find position underneath for an easy layup, tying the game. However, Carolina still had one more offensive possession to take the lead.
But Chamberlain blocks it just before the period ends, with the score still deadlocked.
Second overtime, Wilt, who has not left the game for a single second, is fouled to score this free throw, and his Kansas team will take a 1-point lead.
49 seconds left. Chamberlain is off the beam too. He also misses the chance to put his team ahead.
Third overtime, Kansas yet again relies on their superstar to get them back in the game. After another foul by UNC, the Jayhawks would finally regain the lead until disaster struck.
Chamberlain blocks it but fouls quick.
Wilt fouled Tommy Cairns, allowing North Carolina a chance to retake the lead with 5 seconds remaining.
He makes the second, putting Carolina a point ahead.
Once again, Kansas looked to find Wilt.
Chamberlain's their last hope, but Quigg blocks the pass to the stilt, and Carolina takes over as the game ends. The Tar Heels win the most exciting final in NCAA tournament history.
Wilt Chamberlain was devastated. It wasn't just the loss that crushed him, it was the way they lost.
These teams couldn't compete or didn't want to compete with me as an individual player, so they would just take and hold the basketball. And here I was, a guy who loved to run and wanted to run and shoot, and I thought maybe more individual type of playing against me, but every team always just put 4 guys around me on defense, or 3 guys, and then when they got the ball, they would hold it.
Wilt felt collegiate basketball lacked something that the NBA had recently implemented. Dante Biasoni, nicknamed Danny, who was the owner of the Syracuse Nationals in the NBA, was bored to death watching his team play. Syracuse, or whoever they were facing, would aim to get a small lead late in games and then just hold the ball, meaning opposing teams either allowed it to happen or they had to foul them, which just gave the winning team another chance to further increase their lead. Danny knew something had to change, so he sat down and decided he wanted to see teams shoot roughly 120 shots per game. He then divided that by 2,880 seconds, the length of an NBA game, and thus the 24-second shot clock was born. Wilt, much like Biasone, would grit his teeth throughout the 1957-1958 season,
blocking everything.
Of having to spend another year playing this boring style of basketball before he could enter the much more exciting NBA angered him. Therefore, in June of 1958, he sold the rights to a special announcement he wanted to make to Look magazine for $10,000. So what now? Abe Saperstein, a sports promoter, has recently acquired a professional basketball team that originates from Chicago, but had named themselves after a New York borough. However, he was facing some problems, because after the NBA had allowed members of all races to participate in 1950, Saperstein's team struggled to retain their players. Therefore, he made a radical move. Harlem's team would no longer try to compete as a professional squad. Instead, they would live up to their name, traveling the world as entertainers, providing fans with a show rather than a competitive battle.
I know them.
This, alongside a $65,000 check, swayed Chamberlain to spend
I remember the Globetrotters. I remember.
Abe. Despite his incredible size,
be traveling the world
which
around
earned
and
him the
shit.
nickname The Stilt, Chamberlain was no longer the main act. Instead, he was just an important piece in a much larger puzzle. Dip loved his experience so much that he had huge doubts about entering the NBA. In fact, he was considering remaining with the Globetrotters. Neil Johnston, who had led the NBA in scoring from 1952 to 1955, playing for the Philadelphia Warriors, was forced to retire early due to knee troubles. Knowing his talent as a player, Eddie Gottlieb appointed his star as the Warriors head coach before Chamberlain was set to make his decision. Thankfully for the rookie coach Johnston, Wilt was excited to play in the NBA.
I'm really looking forward to the 24-second rule under one man. I think it will be a period of orientation for me, of course, like it is for every newcomer in the NBA, but I think in the long run I'll be able to handle myself man-to-man with almost anyone in the league.
A media frenzy would follow, with Wilt being touted as the next greatest player in the league. Many journalists believed he would break every record ever set and carry Philadelphia to championship after championship. But would he live up to these lofty expectations?
I don't know. We're going to see.
October 24th, 1959. In his first game as a true professional, the Big Dipper would drop 43 points, the highest total scored by a rookie on debut in the history of the NBA. And a couple of weeks later, against the Syracuse Nationals, Chamberlain would break another record. Wilt would pull down 40 rebounds, smashing the Philadelphia Warriors' single-game rebounding record, whilst also scoring 41 points in just his third game in the NBA. However, there is a missing piece to Chamberlain's story, because the NBA didn't officially record blocks for another 15 years. But to help you understand how many shots he did block, statisticians often reported that they lost track. A couple of months later, Chamberlain would set a new career high of 58 points and pull down a record-breaking 42 rebounds against the Detroit Pistons in a 10-point victory.
it's Wilt.
Over the course of his rookie season, Wilt set or broke 8 new NBA records, including most points scored in a single season, as well as minutes played. Thanks to these insane achievements, Dip was named as the Rookie of the Year, All-Star MVP, and shockingly won the NBA's Most Valuable Player award in his rookie season.
He won everything, basically.
Headlines were starting to emerge. You see, in a regular season game against the St. Louis Hawks in February, Chamberlain had been elbowed so hard by Clyde Levert that he lost 2 teeth. And a few minutes later against the New York Knickerbockers, Willie Knowles followed up Clyde's work, elbowing Chamberlain in the exact same spot, forcing him to leave the game early. Whilst he was rewarded with free throws against the Knicks, Wilt was growing frustrated with his treatment from not only the other NBA players, but the officials, who he felt followed 2 sets of rules. Despite this, Philadelphia, thanks to Wilt's incredible play, had gone from being the worst team in the NBA to the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, and they were set to face Dante Biassone's Nationals in the first round of the playoffs. Much like Dante's invention, the Warriors, thanks to a 53-point performance in Game 3 from Wilt, would dispose of Syracuse quickly and were set to face the defending NBA champions in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Boston Celtics. William Felton Russell, or better known by his nickname Bill, a standout from San Francisco College who had been picked number 2 by the St. Louis Hawks in 1956 before being traded to the Boston Celtics almost immediately, was the focal point of their game plan. Led by the same coach who had helped Wilt as a teenager, Boston had won the title in Russell's rookie season, a feat that Chamberlain was going to try and match, but he had to get through Bill first. Game 1, Wilt would drop 42 points, yet this wasn't enough to beat Boston, and his issues only continued throughout Game 2, because Dip, sick of being pushed around and encouraged by his head coach, would finally fight back, punching Celtic Tommy Heinsohn so hard that Chamberlain required x-rays. But this did very little for the Warriors, and despite Dip being healthy enough to play Game 3, the NBA Rookie of the Year would only score 12 points and 24
That's crazy though, Bangs. That's crazy.
March 22nd, 2nd, 1960, Wilt, knowing
he played in a lot of games.
Lost, they would be going home, he would drop an insane 50 points. However, Tommy Heinsohn would get his revenge, hitting a crucial layup late in Game 6, giving Boston the single-point lead they needed to be the team moving on to their 3rd NBA Finals in a row. Whilst Boston was winning their 3rd championship in 4 years, Wilt would lay in his room considering his future with basketball. He was struggling with constantly being recognized and berated in public. Young children would stop and stare, adult fans would often make racist remarks or treat him like a zoo animal that existed.
A zoo animal is fucking crazy. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. That's fucking crazy. But that is facts. He is tall, honestly. For back then, he was tall, honestly.
Solely for their entertainment. Coupled with his on-court treatment, Chamberlain had made a decision. Upon returning from Russia, Wilt would open his mailbox to a flood of letters from fans, pleading with the Big Dipper to return to the NBA. Wilt would read every single one, and the time away from the NBA gave him a chance to talk to those closest to him about his shock retirement. And in August of 1960, the former NBA Rookie of the Year had made a decision. Whilst Wilt would continue to break his own records, averaging 38.4 points per game, and going so far as to break Bill Russell's single-game rebounding record by 4.
Damn,
the most
55?
impressive part, it was against Bill Russell. But the Warriors, despite having arguably the best individual player in the NBA, were struggling as a team. And given that his superstar came so close to quitting just a season ago, Eddie Gottlieb knew something had to change. December 4th, 1956, Frank McGuire, the head coach of North Carolina, has just won his first national championship as a collegiate coach, winning a game that many thought was unwinnable. However, a few years later, the NCAA placed Carolina on probation, citing poor accounting skills, resulting in McGuire resigning from his head coaching role. Thankfully for Frank, he had a plan. Coach McGuire began his tenure with Philadelphia by sitting down with his new superstar and asking him a simple question.
I asked him how long he'd like to play, and his answer was forever. I said, no. Well, how long do you want to play in the game? He said, I never get tired. And I said, you'll play all the games? He said, yes.
8th of December, 1961, Chamberlain, in 63 minutes of play, would score an insane 78 points.
Played overtimes, 3 overtimes in games. And he ran as fast and everything else. But he's just superhuman.
However, it would be the Lakers who would win this intense battle, and after the game, Coach McGuire made an interesting prediction. Hershey, Pennsylvania. In an effort to increase fan engagement, NBA teams would play regular season games in various home arenas around their state, and on March 2nd, 1962, it was here where the Warriors were set to face New York in one of their final regular season games. Chamberlain, who had been averaging 53.1 points in their last 10 games, started the match as usual. However, as the fourth quarter was coming to a close, something mind-blowing happened.
This crazy, bro. How do they like? Obviously, they got the audio of like him like with the 100 points, but like, is there like any type of footage of like him scoring 100 points? And obviously, it's Wilt, and like back then, that shit is like that shit was easy for me. I mean, it's still to some people it's easy now. If somebody wanted to go do that shit, and it was a top NBA player, they could, but like. Back then, I feel like it was more easier back then than it is now, but still, it's like it's a 3-point now, so I'm pretty sure you can still do this shit now. You feel me? I don't think they give you back then. Yeah, true. I mean, they did have some type of recording though. Bang, they had some type of recording, but I mean, hey, he scored 100 points. That's crazy. Honestly, that's a crazy goal to say. Oh yeah, I scored 100 points in the NBA. Yeah, true. That is, they definitely did use the radio for sure. Bangs for sure.
People are crowding, pounding him, banging him. The Warrior players are all over him. Fans are coming out of his.
That's a crazy goal to hit, though.
The most amazing scoring performance of all time. 100 points for the Big Dipper.
But this wasn't the only record Chamberlain set that will likely never be broken again. Harvey Pollack, the official stat keeper for the Philadelphia Warriors, would share that Wilt unofficially averaged a triple-double that season, with 50.4 points, 25.7 rebounds, and double-digit blocks. Whilst this record was technically unofficial, the Big Dipper did set some official ones, some of which still stand 60 years later. Firstly, he scored the most points in a single season in NBA history, 4,029 points, a record that still stands. Secondly, he literally never spent a single second on the bench that season, playing every minute of it.
That's why he scored so many points and got so much shit. He never got tired and never wanted to come at the game. You feel me? I feel like the courts back then, they were smaller than the courts are now. Because I don't know if they're the same length of size and courts, but I think those courts now in the NBA are bigger than the ones back then. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Every game that he was available for. Therefore, he averaged 48.5.
That would be amazing to be there.
30 seconds more than the length of an NBA game. Not only was his stamina insane, he allegedly dunked so hard once that he broke Johnny Kerr's toe. All he needed to cap off this legendary season was his first NBA title. April 5th, 1962, Boston Garden, Massachusetts. The series is tied at 3 games each. Whoever wins tonight will be moving on to the NBA Finals. As the game was coming to a close, Wilt would sky so high, almost touching the top of the backboard to send Tommy Heinsohn's hook shot flying. However, the referees would deem it as a goaltend. Boston had extended their lead to 5. Yet, the Warriors, led by their superstar, would claw their way back until Celtics guard Sam Jones hit this pull-up jump shot and the game was over. Chamberlain was devastated. His rival, Russell, had already won 5 NBA titles in 6 seasons, whilst Wilt was yet to make it out of the Eastern Conference. And unfortunately for the Big Dipper, this was only the beginning of his struggles.
Bill Russell was a good-ass center too. Bill Russell was an amazing center. I can say that for sure. Amazing center. No, yeah, there was no 3-point line back in the day, though, Banks. I don't know when they created it, but yeah, it was crazy.
Matty Simmons, after seeing the financial success of the Minneapolis Lakers move to a much larger market in Los Angeles, was interested in moving another NBA team to California. Eddie Gottlieb, frustrated with Philadelphia's inability to get past Boston despite having the best player in the whole league, decided to sell his Warriors to Simmons for $850,000. Whilst many were confused as to why Gottlieb wanted to sell, it was all a part of his grand plan to bring a championship to Philadelphia. Bob Feerick, a native to San Francisco, was named as the head coach of the brand new San Francisco Warriors, as Coach McGuire had no interest in relocating cross-country. Chamberlain would yet again have an incredible individual season, averaging 44.8 points, 24.3 rebounds, 47.3 minutes, all while shooting 52% from the field. However, San Francisco struggled to replicate Philadelphia's success, losing 49 games, and this wasn't all, as team owner Matty Simmons had lost money throughout the season, making the decision to sell the team to Franklin Miuli, a decision that changed the Warriors franchise forever. Because Franklin would bring in the team's original owner and make him their general manager. Eddie had 2 key goals. Firstly, find a competent head coach. Secondly, pair Wilt with another superstar level player. April 12th, 1958, St. Louis Hawks star guard Bob Pettit has just scored 50 points in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, handing Bill Russell his only NBA Finals defeat of the past 6 seasons. Pettit's performance was fueled by championship-winning head coach Alex Haynham, who thankfully for Eddie Gottlieb had recently left his current team. The 1963 draft saw Eddie select Nate the Great Thurmond, a standout power forward from Bowling Green University, with their 3rd pick. However, given that Thurmond played a similar role to Wilt, would the pair work well together? Well, Coach Haynham brought in a different perspective, because Alex had spent time in the military and would command respect from all his players, whilst also forming close bonds with them. This initial work allowed Coach Alex to convince Chamberlain to make a drastic change in his game. A move that he knew would land Wilt in his first NBA Finals. April 16th, 1964, the San Francisco Warriors are playing the St. Louis Hawks blocks. Throughout their playoff journey, something has been dramatically different about Wilt.
What's
Not
that?
only has he dominated the boards and the baskets, but Dip has become a true defensive force. Whilst we will never know his true average, Chamberlain would record a reported 12 blocks throughout this must-win game. And this wasn't the only
Nice.
adaptation. Coach Hanem has turned Wilt's greatest weakness, getting double, sometimes triple teamed, into an advantage, with the Dipper now averaging an impressive 5 assists per game. These key changes,
solid.
alongside a standard 39-point, 30-rebound performance, would see Wilt finally achieve his NBA Finals dreams. But would these adjustments in his playstyle be enough to defeat Bill Russell and his Celtics?
We
Game
finna see.
5, Boston Garden.
We finna see.
Chamberlain and his on-court rival have battled all series long. Russell is one, if not the only player in the league who can match Wilt's strength, with Bill holding the Big Dipper to a 29-point average in their first 4 games, placing his Celtics just a single win away from the crown. Throughout Game 5, as usual, Russell would hold his rival down. Wilt would shoot a poor 42% from the field, meaning yet again it was Boston who was crowned NBA champions. The NBA world, who once heralded Chamberlain as the next greatest player, began to turn on him, painting him as a crybaby, a loser, and a villain that would never win anything.
That's crazy.
A few months would pass, and the Big Dipper is spending time on a warm summer's afternoon throwing a football with his friend Hank Stram. Stram is shocked with Wilt's ability to not only throw and catch a football, but his 4.6-second 40-yard dash time, incredibly quick for a 7'1" NBA
Pretty
center.
solid.
Hank, who was the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, asks Wilt if he had ever considered playing professional football.
Nah, we don't see if Wilt played football. That don't even seem like realistic. You feel me? Because like, imagine you had to guard a wide receiver that's 7 foot, or he was a DB, he's 7 foot, or like, what is it? He couldn't play no running back. I mean, he could, but running backs are usually like built. You feel me? But like, if it was a DB or a wide receiver that's 7 foot, that would not. It wouldn't seem realistic. But that should be overpowered. You feel me? Let me know. What is that? That shit had to be overpowered. Y'all let me know, bro. Because that shit, me personally, back then, a 7 foot wide receiver or 7 foot DB or safety, that's overpowered as hell. It is. Ain't he too skinny for football? That's what I was thinking. He's not like built. That's what I'm saying. He wasn't built.
He would ponder throughout the rest of the offseason. The Big Dipper was in the Big Apple a few weeks later, playing in the Rucker Park tournament for his own team that he sponsored. And once his game had finished, a 17-year-old New York local who had been making national headlines as the next NBA superstar after Wilt would introduce himself ecstatic that he just got to meet his idol. However, just a few hours later, Wilt would find himself in a hospital bed after suddenly collapsing with intense chest pains. Doctors feared the worst, believing that the NBA MVP has just suffered a potential life-ending heart attack. Thankfully for Wilt, it wasn't his heart that had failed him, it was his pancreas. Whilst he was over the moon that he had lived, Chamberlain would have to deal with intense stomach pains that could potentially derail his athletic career, and a question was raised: had he played his last ever NBA game? 1963, Isaac Ike Richman, Eddie Gottlieb and Chamberlain's lawyer, has just purchased the Syracuse Nationals.
Welcome to the stream, Santino. Welcome to the stream.
Moved the team to Philadelphia. Only he had one issue: they needed a name. Therefore, Ike would hold a public fan vote, with the 76ers, a shortened version of 1776, the year the Declaration of Independence was signed, was chosen as their name. The Philadelphia 76ers were born. October 31st, 1964, Wilt would finally return to an NBA court, missing 5 regular season games to recover from his pancreatitis. And whilst he would eventually return to his true form, his team was facing some serious issues.
What's some issues?
Because the Big Dipper was the highest paid player in the NBA, earning $60,000 per season, and the Warriors were still losing money. Therefore,
back then it was a lot.
Able to
it's still
pay
a lot.
their superstar, who was averaging 38.9 points for them that season, was traded back to his hometown team.
So are you happy or sad about it? Mixed emotions. Actually, I'll be like Tony Bennett leaving my heart here in San Francisco because I fell in love with the city.
It's the morning after Philadelphia has just gone down 2-1 against the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Sports Illustrated has just released the first half of their exclusive interview with Chamberlain, much earlier than the pair agreed upon. The article details Wilt's true feelings towards the NBA, being transparent about his struggles with pancreatitis, criticizing his current Philadelphia head coach, giving a warning for up-and-coming NBA stars, and opening up about the emotional pain he is suffering. The NBA, upon reading the article, would hit Wilt with the largest fine in the history of the league.
How much? $750.
As the series progressed, Boston...
That's not nothing for Wilt. Wilt is getting $60K a year, so like, well, every season, whatever you want to call it, but that's $750. That now, like, people getting fined millions of dollars now, but back then, $750 wasn't nothing for Wilt.
And Philly exchanged wins, meaning it all came down to this. Game 7 at Boston Garden. Chamberlain would play his heart out, scoring 30 points on 15 field goal attempts.
It was a lot back then though, Banks.
32
for
rebounds,
sure.
Outplaying his rival, who only scored 16. However, Russell didn't have to carry his team like Chamberlain. No, he had teammates like Sam Jones, who scored 37 points, and John Havlicek, who dropped 27. Boston, who held a 1-point lead, was just 5 seconds away from another NBA Finals appearance.
He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it over the fast wall.
Chamberlain was crushed yet again. Seconds away. Frustrated with Philadelphia's inability to build a team around him, Wilt would consider retirement. Only this time he had a plan. Cus D'Amato, the legendary boxing manager and promoter, is in talks with someone he believes could be the next biggest thing in boxing. Cus is looking at setting up a fight between Muhammad Ali and Chamberlain, with Wilt looking at signing a 7-year deal with D'Amato to box professionally, much to the dismay of
see, at first he was talking about going to football. Now imagine you doing boxing, right? Your opponent is Wilt Chamberlain. He's literally, I don't know exact height, cause you feel me? But he's tall as hell. I don't know exact height, but I know he's 7 foot something. You feel me? But imagine you had to box Wilt Chamberlain, like his reach. You literally had. I don't even know what you would do in that point. Honestly, 750 is 7,000. Nah, they get fined more than 7,000 for sure.
His owner. You see, Richmond and Chamberlain were incredibly close.
That's what I'm saying, Banks.
His client and close friend leaving his team crushed Ike. So, during Dip's annual Kutcher's visit, Ike locked himself in a room with Wilt, refusing to let either of them leave until a decision was reached. Boxing or basketball? 25th of August, 1965, Bill Russell has just become the highest paid player in the NBA, signing with his Celtics for $100,001, a single dollar more than the record contract his rival had signed just a few days before. But given his third brush with retirement, would Wilt be fully focused on basketball, or would his mind be elsewhere? December 3rd, 1965, Ike Richmond, in a rare move for an owner, is sitting at the end of Philadelphia's bench, cheering on his team as they try to beat the Celtics at Boston Garden for the first time in franchise history. However, shortly before halftime, Richmond would suffer a heart attack and was promptly rushed to Massachusetts General Hospital. The 76ers, especially Wilt, knowing what had likely just happened, came out of the locker room and put on the performance of a lifetime. The Big Dipper dropped 29 and grabbed 30 rebounds. Philadelphia, in honor of their owner, who was unfortunately pronounced dead a few hours later, had to
Rest in peace to him.
Defeated the Celtics in Boston Garden. A few weeks later, Gus Honeycomb Johnson, who was well known for his incredible strength, athletic ability, and backboard-shattering dunks, would drive down the lane against the 76ers, looking for his signature posted dunk. But Chamberlain would step up and block Gus. Not only did he prevent Johnson from scoring, he blocked him so hard that he dislocated Johnson's shoulder. This was clearly a different Wilt. February 14th, 1966, Chamberlain sinks a signature underhanded free throw, crowning him him as the all-time point leader in NBA history. Wilt would average 5.2 assists, 33.5 points, and 22.9 rebounds, leading his 76ers for the first time to hold the first seed in the Eastern Conference. Dip's refreshed performance would earn him the Most Valuable Player award for the 1965-1966 season. However, there was another award that Wilt was far more interested in winning.
What's that?
But first, he would have to achieve something he had failed to do his whole career. Sure. Despite the Big Dipper never taking a single second to rest and scoring an incredible 46 points in Game 5, yet again, it was Boston who would move on to the NBA Finals, where they would win their 8th NBA championship in a row.
8 in a row is crazy, bro. Back then, the fucking Boston Celtics was just a big ass super team, basically. 8 championships in a row.
Celtics were clearly the better team.
The Celtics was crazy.
Something shocking occurred in
back
Boston
then.
over the offseason. So, who was capable enough to replace Red? Alex Haynham, after missing the playoffs by a single game, was fired by the San Francisco Warriors at the end of the 1965-1966 season, and Irv Kozlov, the new majority owner of the 76ers, knew exactly what he had to do. Throughout the regular season, something was different about Wilt, because he only averaged 24.1 points per game. But why? Well, Haynham had earned the trust and respect of Chamberlain. Coach Alex convinced Wilt yet again to focus less on being a dominant scorer, with the Big Dipper averaging an incredible 7.8 assists per game. This shift in focus would set another record because the 76ers had 6 players average 12 or more points, leading Philadelphia to set the NBA's best win-loss record, setting up a first-round matchup against the Cincinnati Royals. Throughout their first playoff series under Coach Haynham, Wilt would apply the same strategy he used throughout the regular season, having a 19-assist performance in Game 3, defeating the Royals 3 games to 1. The team that awaited them was the Boston Celtics, led by their brand new player/head coach, Bill Russell. Game 1, Philadelphia Convention Hall. Chamberlain would unofficially record the NBA's first quadruple-double, 24 points, 13 assists, 32 rebounds, and 12 blocks. But most importantly, the W. However, in order to beat the Celtics, they would have to do something the franchise had never done before: win a playoff game in Boston Garden. April 2nd, 1967. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4 players scored in double digits. No, 6 76ers would drop at least 10 points throughout Game 2. Philadelphia had done it, and it seemed like Wilt finally had what he had been missing since he entered the NBA in 1959. Game 3, Convention Hall. Bill Russell and his Celtics aren't going to go down easily, with Bill scoring 10 points, grabbing 29 rebounds, throwing 9 assists, and blocking 4 shots, while simultaneously coaching his Celtic teammates to what they thought would be a victory. Yet Chamberlain would set an NBA playoff record that still stands to this day, grabbing 41 rebounds, as well as dropping 20 points, 9 assists, and blocking 5 shots, leading his 76ers to a 3-0 lead, just one game away from achieving the impossible. April 9th, 1967, Boston Garden. Irv Kozlov warns his 76ers that if they don't bury Boston tonight, they risk giving them a glimmer of hope. And Wilt, understanding the situation more than anyone else, knows exactly what he has to do. Chamberlain would pour in 20 points with his standard finger rolls and emphatically dunking all over his rival. However, it was Russell who blocked multiple shots late in the fourth quarter and synced the clutch free throws, who gave Boston a 4-point victory, keeping their dreams alive of winning a 9th NBA championship in a row. Game 5, Coach Bill Russell has seemingly begun to figure out the 76ers, with Russell deploying Wayne "The Wall" Embry to play the center position, whilst Russell moved further away from the basket, forcing Chamberlain away from the rim. Despite scoring 22 points in the first half, Boston held a 5-point lead heading into the locker room. Wilt would sit in his locker as all the feelings of struggle began flooding into his head. The frustration of putting up incredible individual performances, only to lose to his rival yet again. He knew that he couldn't carry Philly alone. He needed his team. Wally Jones, another Overbrook High School star who was drafted by the Detroit Pistons out of Villanova, had been traded to his hometown 76ers before the start of the 1965-1966 season to become one of their starting guards. Jones, who was well known for his shooting and ball handling skills, began to hit jump shot after jump shot, and as Boston's lead decreased, Philadelphia's crowd only got louder.
I was shouting and everything. The momentum of the team started to move then, and we just knew that we had him then as soon as we got here.
The tremendous feeling you have of coming back to that room with your own group, and looking at one another and knowing that you have done it. This moment was truly a moment of elation and tremendous pride. The real big celebrating, the yelling and screaming came later with the reporters and the fans, but that moment, walking back to that dressing room, is one that I'll never forget.
Boston's dynasty had come crumbling down, or had it? Rick Barry, the 1965 number 2 pick and Rookie of the Year, had turned the San Francisco Warriors franchise around after Wilt's departure. His long 6'7" frame and incredible shooting ability was something NBA defenders weren't used to, with Barry leading the league in scoring at 38.5 points per game, carrying his team back to the NBA Finals. April 23rd, 1967, Game 5, Convention Hall. Philadelphia has just blown a 13-point lead. Their champagne has been put back on ice. The Big Dipper will have to return to San Francisco if he is to win his first NBA title. As he stepped foot onto the court for Game 6, flashbacks of all the moments he was just one possession away from winning rushed back to him, and he began to wonder, would I always be a loser? Am I truly incapable of becoming an NBA champion? As the game progressed, Rick Barry was decimating the 76ers defense.
I attempted to guard Rick Barry, but he is by far the toughest forward in the NBA to guard because he is in constant movement.
And Nate Thurmond is pulling down rebound after rebound.
Now it looked again like we were going to let something slip away from us and we were going to have to take it back to Philadelphia.
With Wilt at the line late in the fourth quarter down 1, Warriors fans, understanding Chamberlain's struggles at the line, sat calmly.
But it's clutch time now. The 76ers take the lead by 1, but can they hold it?
San Francisco calls timeout. Head coach Bill Sharman draws up a game-winning sideline out-of-bounds play with 15 seconds remaining.
Barry has the ball. Walker guarding.
I got a lot of help from Chamberlain, and between both of us, we managed to stop him, and we managed to force him into a bad shot. Luke Jackson got the rebound, and I think that was the turning point of the game.
Points. And the Philadelphia 76ers now have a crown.
Wilt was finally an NBA champion.
His W.
Go back to back. Whilst many assumed Chamberlain would be returning as he had signed a 3-year deal, this was allegedly false, and in fact, Wilt and Ike Richman had secretly renegotiated his contract before their championship season to a single-year $150,000 deal, which made Dip a free agent. Although Wilt had no intentions of leaving, he did want new owner Irv Kozlov to honor his agreement with Richman, a percentage ownership of the 76ers, or Wilt would be leaving. October 18th, 1967, the Los Angeles Lakers are in town, and finally, after months of negotiating, Chamberlain is present and in the starting lineup. So, was Wilt a part owner of his own team? No, as this was against league rules. But Irv has signed his superstar to the largest contract in NBA history, $250,000 on a single-year deal. The Big Dipper was ready to win back-to-back NBA titles. March 18th, 1968, in another matchup against the Lakers, Wilt would achieve something that to this day has not been replicated, officially recording 53 points, 32 rebounds, and 14 assists, with an additional, albeit unofficial, 11 steals and 24 blocks, according to Philadelphia 76ers statistician Harvey Pollack, meaning, unofficially, the Big Dipper is the only player in history to record a quintuple-double. And this wasn't all, because history to record a quintuple.
A quintuple double. That's my first hearing that shit. I'm not gonna. If y'all had to pick one player in the NBA, it don't matter if the NBA was a player back then and y'all put him in like today's era of NBA or today's era or like whenever, put him in any era, whoever's in NBA, it don't matter who they are. Would y'all think they'll get the quintuple double? Whatever that fucking is, I don't know what that is.
triple-double. And this wasn't all, because after Game 4 of their Eastern Conference Finals matchup against Boston, it was the 76ers who yet again held a 3-1 lead, just a single win away from his third NBA Finals appearance. Although both Wilt and Bill seemed to hate each other on court, the pair were incredibly close off of it.
I mean, he'd come past my house on Thanksgiving because we played Philly Boston all the time, sleep in my bed, eat the food, sleep in my bed, and go out there and whip my butt. Understand? And my mother would say, "No, we shouldn't feed Bill so well the next time."
A relationship born from the fact that no one else in the league was at each other's level. They pushed each other to the absolute limit, and Chamberlain was slowly taking over the matchup. Or was he? April 19, 1968, Boston has just achieved something that no other team in the history of the NBA has done. Head coach / team captain Bill Russell has led his Celtic teammates to a Game 7 victory, meaning Boston has just become the first team to ever come back from being down 3-1 in a playoff series. But
let's see.
Well, throughout the second half of Game 7, Chamberlain only attempted 2 field goals, both offensive rebound tap-ins. While we will never know why, perhaps Wilt, because his contract with Philadelphia was ending, wanted to show Philadelphia how badly they needed him. Or did the ball truly just not end up in his hands?
I don't know.
Despite losing to his close friend yet again, Wilt had much larger issues at hand. Jack Kent Cooke, a Canadian businessman, has purchased the Los Angeles Lakers in 1965, and upon being told he wouldn't be able to host games at the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena, he decided to build his own. However, his new team, led by high-level guard Jerry West and forward Elgin Baylor, has struggled, much like Chamberlain, to defeat the Boston Celtics. While Jack had a baseball background, he understood one thing about basketball. He knew you needed a dominant big man to succeed, and Kent Cooke knew exactly who he wanted.
I feel very, very happy that I am being traded to a team that I believe may stand a chance to go down the record as one of the best teams in basketball ever.
Led by head coach William Butch Van Bredekolff.
Do you think that Coach Van Bredekolff can handle you? I understand that coaches have said you're difficult to handle. Wilt said, "No one handles me. I am not a thing, I am a person. You handle things. You work with people. I think I can work with anyone."
And playing alongside All-Stars Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, Chamberlain found himself back in the NBA Finals against, surprise, surprise, the Boston Celtics.
I already knew it, bro.
For the first time, facing some struggles, because throughout the 1968-1969 regular season, they had barely made the playoffs, finishing the regular season as the 4th seed. Given the Celtics' age and LA's acquisition of Wilt, many believed it was Los Angeles who were the heavy favorite. May 5th, 1969. Los Angeles is down 9 points in the 4th quarter, but they have plenty of time remaining to mount a comeback.
Rebound coming off, and Chamberlain gets it. 5:55 to go, and Chamberlain hurt his leg on the play.
Oh man, I was like, I saw him.
That knee. He really twisted that knee.
Get hurt. I don't know if I was tripping or not.
The rebound and quickly calls for a timeout.
But Wilt Chamberlain really twisted that knee on that rebound, and this also could be a big factor in the closing minutes of this game. With him not mobile, he has 5 fouls, and he may not be able to move around quite as well.
Wilt would head to the bench to work on recovering, and thankfully a few minutes later, he was ready to re-enter the game. However, Van Bredekolff didn't sub Wilt back in. No, he left him on the bench in the most crucial moment of their season. Why? Well, the pair's relationship began on poor ground. They bickered constantly throughout the season, and Chamberlain struggled with playing traditional minutes during the year, culminating in Bredekolff believing the Lakers were just better off without him.
That's crazy.
And the Boston Celtics have done it again. Another jewel in that round.
Whilst being benched and losing yet again devastated Chamberlain, it's ultimately what his close friend said about him after the game that truly crushed him. November 7th, 1969, Wilt has just played one of his best games as a Laker. He's only missed a single shot. But as Dip dribbled up the court, his knee buckled. Chamberlain has just torn his patella tendon, an injury that will take a full year to recover from, ending his 1969-1970 season.
He just had a knee injury.
Gene Selznick, a volleyball legend who owned a restaurant in LA, would form a close bond with the Lakers star big man during his tenure with Los Angeles. Wilt, who was interested in all forms of athletics, would work closely with Gene, learning the fundamentals of volleyball, and it was this relationship that helped the Big Dipper regain strength and confidence in his injured knee, making it seem likely he would return the following season at 100% strength. March 18th, 1970. The Boston Celtics are in town, but something is very different about tonight's game. Firstly, Bill Russell is gone. Secondly, Wilt Chamberlain is sitting on the Lakers bench, donning a headband, making his NBA debut months before anyone believed he could. Despite losing this game against Boston, Chamberlain's arrival and Russell's departure made one thing clear. The Lakers are now NBA championship favorites. It's April 9th, Game 7 of their first round matchup against the Phoenix Suns. Wilt has just scored 30 points, grabbed 27 rebounds, and thrown 9 assists, leading LA to a miracle series comeback. The Big Dipper would continue to dominate the St. Louis Hawks, averaging 17.3 points, 22 rebounds, and 4.3 assists.
The rebounds gonna be there always.
Los Angeles was ready to win their first ever NBA championship, but with no Bill Russell, who would Chamberlain have to beat? May 4th,
I don't know. Let's see.
Willis Reed, the 1970 most valuable player for the New York Knicks, has led his team back to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1953. However, after trying to score against Wilt, Reed collapsed, suffering a bruised hip that would remove him for the rest of Game 5. Due to this injury, Los Angeles would take the win, and considering the Knicks had just lost their star, many assumed Chamberlain would finally win his second NBA title.
Is he?
Game 7, Madison Square Garden. It all came down to this. But without their star...
And I think we see Willis coming out. Willis, there he comes right now.
There he is. He said, yeah.
10 from Grambling. The captain of the Knicks.
Not gonna get away with this.
NBA. Frazier then slows it down. Is picked up by
Let's see what happened though.
Willis Reed scores the first bucket.
Wilt would respond with 21 points and 24 rebounds, but...
We have a new NBA champion.
March 22nd, 1971. Sophomore big man Lou Alcindor has just been named as the NBA's most valuable player. His hook shot is seemingly unguardable, and alongside his star teammate Oscar Robertson, the Milwaukee Bucks have emerged as a new rising force in the NBA, and they were set to face Wilt Chamberlain and his Lakers in the Western Conference Finals.
Oh no! Okay. The Knicks did him. I'm like, did the Knicks win or I don't know. All right, so they didn't win.
The Big Dipper's superstar teammates had both suffered season-ending injuries in the regular season.
That's not good.
Once again, Wilt would have to single-handedly carry his team. But given his age, would he be able to keep Alcindor at bay? Lou Alcindor would average 25 points, 17.2 rebounds, and 4.2 assists throughout the Lakers' 4-1 series loss, making it clear that there was a new dominant big man in the NBA. Chamberlain, after suffering what should have been a career-ending knee injury and leading the NBA in minutes played over the past 11 seasons, barely spending more than a minute on the bench in every single game he had played, was worn out. At 34 years old, he was truly ready to retire, and an opportunity to do something he had always wanted to do had come up. Only this time, it was for real. A press conference is organized for April 23rd to make the announcement official. However, there is one issue.
What's that?
Didn't show up. Why? Well, he had signed off on the fight for $500,000. However, he thought it was after taxes, not before. Wilt would once again stick with basketball, and thankfully for Chamberlain, the Lakers have made some drastic changes. April 11th, 1961. Bill Sharman, the star shooting guard for the Boston Celtics, has just won his 4th NBA championship, a great end to his 10-year NBA career. Sharman would spend the next 10 years coaching in the NBA and American Basketball Association, or ABA, leading the San Francisco Warriors to the NBA Finals. Jack Kent Cooke, upon realizing Sharman's contract with the Utah Stars had ended in the ABA, knew exactly what he had to do. Head coach
That's how
Sharman
tall he was.
brought something
Since no, he was 7
teaching
foot
them the
something.
same style that Red Auerbach deployed with Bill Russell and the Celtics. Sharman would convince Wilt to play much more like his rival, but he never told him to do so because he would make it seem like it was Chamberlain's idea through asking questions and guiding him to the answer that he wanted, which helped Sharman earn Wilt's respect. However, the Lakers were aging. Elgin Baylor's injury was so bad that he decided to retire at the start of the 1971-1972 season. January 7th,
he was only 37 too.
Los Angeles is in St. Louis for a regular season matchup against the Hawks, on the verge of setting an unbreakable NBA record, utilizing a much faster transition-based style of basketball, with Chamberlain focusing on blocking or altering shots at the rim, rebounding, and then looking for quick passes. The Los Angeles Lakers have just won an insane 33 games in a row. 2 nights later, LA was in Milwaukee, looking to extend their win streak to 34. However, standing in their way is Lou Alcindor, who, after converting to Islam, has changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
See, I'm like, what do you mean, the name before Kareem? I'm like, that's Kareem, but I didn't know that was his name until he changed it. All right, so now I'm like, who was that? I was like, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like.
Last year's MVP would drop an incredible 39 points, once again dominating Chamberlain, making it clear that his reign as the NBA's most dominant force was coming to a close. However, for the first time in Chamberlain's career, he had something that his rival didn't.
What's that?
April 22nd, 1972, Western Conference Finals, Game 6. Kareem has been dominant all series, averaging 33 points, 15.5 rebounds, 4.8 assists, and a couple of blocks per game. Chamberlain, knowing full well that this is his final chance to get to the NBA Finals, knows that he has to go out and do the impossible. The Big Dipper would do something that no other NBA player had been able to do: block a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook, finishing the game with 9 blocks, 5 of which were on Kareem. A sports reporter who had followed Wilt his whole career shared that Game 6 was the hardest he had ever seen Wilt play, and thanks to this performance, the Lakers were moving on to the NBA Finals. However, would they be able to get their revenge against the New York Knicks?
I don't know.
Would Wilt fail yet again?
So did they? All right, so they did lose to the New York Knicks. I thought they lost. I thought the Knicks won, and then it said something about. Then I was like, oh, they didn't win. So I'm guessing the Knicks. All right, so the Knicks did win. I don't know. Y'all let me know. I was confused at that part. You know what I'm saying?
Game 5.
I'm Chick Hearn along with Lynn Shackelford. Tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers have a chance to do something that they have never done in their history, and that is to win the World Championship of basketball.
Despite going up 3-1, Wilt would be the player to suffer what many thought would be a series-ending injury in Game 4. He had fallen straight onto his wrists, and while it was reported he had either sprained his right wrist or had a small hairline fracture on his index finger, he had actually completely broken it. The Big Dipper, with his wrist taped still, would grab 29 rebounds, score 24 points, and impact almost every New York Knicks shot defensively. An inspiring performance that resulted in...
And the Los Angeles Lakers are the world champions of...
Nah, winning it? I didn't even know that. I didn't even know Wilt. He broke. Oh, boom. He broke his wrist. Nah. I'm not out. I'm gonna take this bitch up, and then he proceeded to get 29 rebounds and points, assists, blocks, etc. Now that's different. That's like some Kobe shit. How when Kobe broke, I think Kobe broke some a couple of his fingers and then popped them back in place and all that shit, and he still continued to play and all that shit. That's like some Kobe shit. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm pretty sure multiple people did that shit. But the most person I hear about like popping a finger back in place or having a broke finger and still playing on it is Kobe. But I didn't know Wilt broke his fucking wrist and continued to play. That's crazy, honestly. That's what I'm saying. Kobe broke his fingers.
Be able to win back-to-back NBA championships, or would the following season be the end of his NBA career? May 1st, 1973, after coming second in most minutes played at 36 years old and averaging a record-smashing 73% from the field throughout the regular season, Wilt, alongside the Lakers, have found themselves back in the NBA Finals, up 1-0 against the New York Knicks. Game 3, Jerry West, the Lakers star point guard, whose play has been revitalized.
Amazing
under
player.
head coach Sharman, has just strained both of his hamstrings. Chamberlain, for what seems like the 100th time in his career, will have to put his team on his back. Just a week later, Los Angeles, after Chamberlain only averaged 11.5 points, 18.3 rebounds, and 3.3 assists, had lost to the New York Knicks. The Lakers were just too old to compete with New York. So, was this the end of his incredible professional career?
Maybe.
Leonard Bloom, the owner of an ABA team, had finally, after years and years of trying, has convinced Chamberlain to sign in his league. The Big Dipper has signed a $600,000 per year contract with the San Diego Conquistadors as a player-coach. However, there was a problem with his contract because at the time, the NBA had an option clause, meaning whenever a player's contract ended, they were bound to that team for a year after. Chamberlain,
I didn't know that.
who was still under contract with the Lakers, was prevented from playing in the ABA after a court hearing. However, Wilt was allowed to remain on as a coach. Disappointed with the court's ruling, Wilt would retire from professional basketball at the end of the 1973-1974 ABA season, ending his career as a two-time NBA champion, four-time MVP, and arguably the greatest athlete to ever step foot onto a basketball court. After his incredible 14-year NBA career, Chamberlain would make a statement that would not only shock the NBA, but the whole world.
That you slept with 20,000 women. You made that statement.
All right.
Maybe one of the reasons you invited me on the show was to give me an award from the Board of Education. Because whenever people see me now, they go, 20,000. And let's see, he must have started when he was like 15, and he's now maybe 55. So let's see, 20,365 and 20,000, and and then
So you're getting people thinking.
Not only that, I'm teaching them mathematics.
Nah.
Which is really the whole story.
Yeah, it was another.
Bruh, nah. 20,000. That gotta be a reach. Nah. Yeah, he had to catch something. There's no way they was just all clean. They had no diseases, nothing. I don't know. What, 20,000? Nah. Will, I'm not saying he can't do that, but like, there's no way every woman he slept with was clean. Nah, I'm not saying they was dirty, but like, that's 20,000 people at the end of the day. You feel me? Nah. There's something there's something going behind the scenes, and one of them had some shit that we don't know about. There's no way all of them was just clean. They didn't have no diseases, no nothing. You feel me? No. You know what I'm trying to say, right? It's something going behind the scenes. It got to. You feel me?
Show a commercial, in fact, that would change Wilt's life forever. Because in 1993, Reebok had just signed the 1992 #1 pick, Shaquille O'Neal, to a sneaker deal and decided to bring in all the legendary big men for their commercial. Both Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, who hadn't spoken since Russell made those negative comments all the way back in 1970, would slowly rekindle their friendship.
Well, he got that zone defense in his favor, though, Russ. They ain't gonna be able to drop 3 or 4 or 5 guys on like you, mother.
Wilt and Bill's beef was no more, and they resumed their incredible friendship as if nothing had ever happened. Inspired by his sister, who he believed would have been a great track and field athlete if she had actually had the chance to compete, Chamberlain started Wilt Wonder Woman. His goal was to sponsor female track and field athletes of all ages, paying for their training gear, coaching, and event fees. Also showing up to support when they competed. Wilt's incredible life would come to an end on October 12, 1999 at 63 years old. A lifetime of insomnia, stomach, and heart issues unfortunately caught up to him, and the world lost a legend much sooner than everyone thought. Wilt Chamberlain was truly one of the greatest players to have ever played. While many discredit his...
Rest in peace, Wilt. You feel me? Rest in peace, Wilt. Facts. He was amazing as a player, but rest in peace to Wilt. He had a lot of like injuries going on, a lot of things going on with his life, like his stomach and all things like that, but amazing player.
statistics due to the era he played in. After spending the past 2 months and over 300 hours creating this video, to me it seemed harder to score back then because the rules heavily favored the defense. Chamberlain couldn't really use his strength like a Shaquille O'Neal did. He had to rely on finesse with fadeaways and finger rolls. While I do agree if you dropped a copy-paste Wilt into today's NBA, he wouldn't be as dominant due to his lack of shooting.
Hey, I don't know.
With his athletic ability grew up in today's world, I don't think Victor Wembanyama would be the only alien we'd be talking about.
True.
Also, did you know there was a player who missed over 5,000 free throws and only made 1 3 in his 19-year NBA
Shaquille O'Neal,
who still managed to outscore everyone, winning 4 NBA titles, 3 Finals MVPs, and is currently 9th all-time in scoring. That player is Shaquille O'Neal. And to find out how you did all of this, click the video on your screen now.
All right, Josh Moffitt, we are at the end of the video of how an NBA player became so overpowered they had to change the basketball, which is Wilt Chamberlain. Rest in peace to Will, you feel me? He's an amazing player, but as you see, the video that's on the screen about Shaquille O'Neal, he reacted to that, you feel me? So if you have not already watched that, I will put the link down below in the description. You feel me? Go check that out. I make amazing content. But as you see, we're at the end of the video, Josh Mafia. If you made it to the end of the video, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing if you haven't already subscribed, and make sure everybody's locked on my channel, even your parents need to be locked in. And share my whole channel with your mom, your dad, your sister, brother, all things of that. But this was a longer video. I try not to like pause it as much, even though I paused it a little bit here and there, but I talked over it a little bit here and there. So hopefully I didn't talk over the important parts. But other than that, Josh Mafia. My goal is to create a big community of brothers and sisters, which I call Josh Mafia, but I will see y'all on the next video. I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a banger, a movie, a cinema, all things of that. But yeah, I love it as family. But I will see y'all on the next video. Don't know what it's going to be, as I said, but see you in the next video. Love y'all, Josh Mafia.
Falling, dreaming, talking.